Welcome to Sunshine Cathedral's Queer God Squad. It's Tuesday, July 29th, 2025. I am Bishop Darrell Watkins, the Senior Minister of the Sunshine Cathedral. With me today are Bishop Robert Griffin, Reverend Dr. Ann Atwell, and Reverend Kevin Tisdall. We are the Queer God Squad. Visit sunshinecathedral.org to learn more about us.
Queer God Squad was created by Hotspots Happening Out to support our mission to explore the value of faith in the LGBTQ community. There is no streaming TV show like this in the entire world.
In 2025, we are celebrating the 40th anniversary of Hotspots magazine, the 5th anniversary of Queer News Tonight, with nearly 10,000 stories and 10 million views in 2024. We produced the 25th anniversary of the Stonewall Pride Parade and Festival on June 14th. Pride fed Diversity Pride in August and Pride Fort Lauderdale next February.
We are the largest nonprofit LGBTQ media organization in America, and we encourage you to support our mission to inform, entertain, and educate our community and allies.
This is the Sunshine Cathedral perspective. Queer God Squad pays tribute to Sappho the Lesbosian. Or is that lesbian? Sappho, often hailed as the 10th Muse, was a lyrical poet from the island of Lesbos in the 7th and early 6th centuries BCE, before Common Era. Though only fragments of her vast body of work survive, her influence on Western literature is undeniable. Her poetry, mostly composed for solo performances with a lyre, explored themes of love, desire, beauty, and the complexities of human emotion with remarkable intimacy and vivid imagery. Born into an aristocratic family on the island of Lesbos, Sappho spent most of her life in Mytilene, the island's capital. Mytilene is mentioned in the Bible as a destination of the Apostle Paul. She ran an academy for young women to be educated in music, poetry, and social graces, often in marriage preparation. It is within this context that much of her passionate verse, addressed to female companions and students, is understood. Her intense expressions of affection gave rise to the terms lesbian and sapphic, forever linking her name to same-sex love. Despite the passage of millennia and the loss of most of her work, Sappho's voice continues to resonate, celebrated for its profound emotional depth and groundbreaking contribution to lyric poetry. And if you've ever read Sappho's work, now granted, there's not a lot of it left. There's really just fragments of the originals left. But if you've ever read any of her poetry, it is beautiful. It is very passionate. It actually kind of reminds me of the Song of Solomon. You know, there's a lot of passion to it, a lot of emotion to it, and it has a real feeling of spirituality to it as well. The emotions associated with Sappho gave some of the earliest expressions, I think, to same-gender love, particularly, of course, between women.
Yeah, I love that her hood is in the Bible.
Yeah.
Although 600 years after the fact, but still that, and that story of his going to Mytilene is preceded by him hanging out with a woman's group on his way. So it's there's a lot of interesting connections with that. And that it seems spiritual doesn't seem that odd to me. One of the largest books of the Bible is the Psalter, 150 Psalms, which is songs and poems and liturgy. And the Song of Songs you mentioned, which is it's probably a collection of wedding songs. And so, yeah, whenever the Gospel of Mark might have been sort of a rhapsody performed, I think the story of Jonah was probably performed in open marketplaces. The book of Revelation was probably performed at association meetings, these burial societies. And so, yeah, I think a lot of times to make your point, you need myth, you need poetry, you need metaphor, you need song, you need the arts. And so, and also there's a lot of parallels between sexuality and spirituality anyway. A lot of the same feelings, a lot of the same way you describe those feelings, a lot of the same way you sort of call out to your lover or to the divine, which is sometimes by the mystics described as a lover. It's all very closely related. So that's part of our history, Madam Sappho. And there's a little Sophie Tucker song that I know about it. But it's no, I mean, if we don't know these things, we talk about news sometimes, we talk about theology a lot, but I also like really talking about history because we have a fascinating and rich history that is really everybody's history. But either they don't know it or they don't know how queer it is.
I remember honorable mention of this in high school, maybe,
Yeah.
but not in these particular categories. Oh, that's a place across from Athens, blah, blah, blah. But it is fascinating when you look at what we know about it now and we read about it and bring the spiritual component to this poetry reading. It is fascinating for folks to know kind of like this is us still. You know, we can lay claims to this in a different kind of way than we can other places. And my fear is with so much that's being taken out of the schools these days, that this too would become one of those stories that you probably will not hear about unless you hear about it from a place like the Sunshine Cathedral or some other sort of place.
That's right.
And so I think it's important to remember that as we, as we muse about these muses, it's fascinating just to remember that our history in the LGBT community is rich and is very deep, and there is not a spot where there's queer is not.
True.
Oh, I like the way that sounds. And it's interesting that this kid who grew up in the liberal New York City knew very little about these poets and poetry. It is wonderful to understand and see how they framed history. Women framed history. And that's what we miss most often. And that's something that's still really not taught in schools like it should. And for it to be erotic and for it to be just out there in the love that it espouses. Wonderful.
And how seditious it had to be, but how effective it was for this diversion. That she's training women to be good wives, and basically they're just having a big party.
And
They're just having a big love fest. But that they managed to find that way of doing that. How amazing!
Yep.
And that's today with the Queer God Squad.
Before we go, I want to invite you to like and share this episode on your social media. And I also welcome you to find Sunshine Cathedral on Facebook or Instagram.
You can also like our bishops' pages on Facebook. My page is Bishop Robert Griffin, D-Men, and Darrell's is Bishop Darrell Watkins, D-Men. We're also on TikTok. Remember to visit sunshinecathedral.org frequently. There you will also find Bishop Talk, where Bishop Darrell and I interview queer religious leaders, activists, and scholars. We've also added a weekly lectionary discussion that you can find on the website and on the social medias.
Thank you for joining the Queer God Squad today. We are here daily at 3 p.m. to have some fun and to discuss what our LGBTQ community is talking about.
Sunshine Cathedral is the world's leading progressive queer church. Progressive, queer, and God are words that naturally should go together. Remember that we are all in this together, and also remember, you are God's miracle, not God's mistake. Until next time, we are the Queer God Squad. Bye.